Join me for a 45-minute walk along Provincetown's historic waterfront beach. These are the same shores that inspired generations of artists to create America's oldest art colony. So come on, let's go down the beach. And right on time, that bell sound that you may have heard, I hope you did. If you see that little tiny tower above the tree, that is the steeple of the Provincetown Public Library, and they ring a bell, a church bell, one time at the opening of business each day. So when they open, if they open at 10 a.m. or if they open at 1 o'clock, which on days like today, I guess it's 1 o'clock. So these little public access points come down to the beach, and a lot of folks don't realize here in Provincetown these are public access. So the town has started putting up some signage, but as you'll see when I get off of the beach a little bit later, there are tons and tons of signs in this town. They often say that we're kind of oversigned. So I'm just heading out to the beach. I don't have my beach legs yet this season. It's one of those skills that you acquire living in a town with lots of sand. First, you get used to having sand in everything, sand in all your shoes, sand all over the house. Once you get out walking on the sand, you kind of have to get your sand legs for the season. So I'm looking towards this is essentially the center of Provincetown. That is MacMillan Pier. It's the town's wharf, which on this side is all the commercial fishery. So it's the trawlers and the lobster boats and whatnot. And the other side is recreation and excursions. So we will head over and take a look at a little bit of that a little bit later. Andrea said, love the beach, hate the sand. Yes, I agree. I used to be one of those people who, would pack a lot of stuff to go to the beach, but now I just bring myself and I sit on my coat or my shirt or whatever if I'm sitting on the beach. So this is probably a postcard moment for those of you who like to take postcards. You can see here to the far left, the tower is the Pilgrim Monument, and then in the center is the town library, a former Methodist church. In the foreground, a restaurant, Pepe's. And you see lots of these little buildings that are kind of higgledy-piggledy. Provincetown used to have about 70 wharfs along the waterfront because it was a fishing village, right? It's the way that people could get here was really only by boat. You couldn't get here any other way. The town's surrounded by water on three sides today. And before the 1870s, I would say, sorry, the wind is gusting here, so I'm trying to go in a straight line. Before the 1870s, Provincetown was pretty much cut off from land, so the harbor was the most important way that folks could travel and get around. So if you can picture Provincetown Harbor full of sailing vessels, just amazing to see the historic photos. Andrea said, I bring a chair and a book and could sit there all day. Yeah, I'm not even a chair person anymore. I just sit in the sand, make my own chair out of the sand. So there were about, I think I started saying, there were about 50 of these wharves that went out into the water. So that was where all the fishing industry did everything. Well, no one's on the beach because it's April, Penny. It's about, weather check. It is 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry, the United States never switched to the metric system. It's about 14 mile per hour winds, and it is just about low tide right now. Oh, you're in California. It's probably beautiful there. I follow a guy who rides his bike around San Francisco over on Twitch. And he just rides around for hours on end and kind of does little tours. And it's great fun to see the weather in San Francisco when it's, 20 degrees here on Cape Cod. Yesterday was 100. Wow, we're in California. I have some folks, some friends who are in Palm Springs right now. they're these seasonal folks who are here in the summer and then winter in California. Oh, Laguna sounds beautiful. So I promised in the description on this tour that I would talk a little bit about sea level rise. Hi, Piscina. Hi, Deborah. Welcome aboard. And this building right here is a good example of what happens in a waterfront community where the federal government has said you need to raise buildings when they do construction beyond a certain percentage of the total value of the building. This little building was, excuse me, this was a hammock shop and art gallery. And the folks who bought it needed to redo the foundation. When they found out how much it would cost to redo the foundation, which was essentially some piers, they learned they also, to get the permits, they had to raise the building. It's gone up about 6 feet. So they completely rebuilt the pier that it was sitting on and rebuilt most of the structure. And they salvaged a lot of the original materials for the inside of the building, but the outside is pretty much all new construction. So this should be finished this summer. And I did ask the owner, he is going to paint it what became the traditional orange color of the hammock shop. If you Google hammock shop Provincetown, you'll see pictures of it. And this little structure right in front of me is a kayak rack. In the season, people bring tons of kayaks out onto the beaches, and the town was getting overrun by kayaks just strewn all over the place. So they built these little wooden structures. You actually have to get a permit from the town to be able to put your kayak out on the beach. Hi there, Kristen. Welcome aboard. This is one of the things I love about these piers, is that you can walk under buildings. In Provincetown, we have a colonial right to navigation along the beach that we can't be impeded from wandering along. So you get to go kind of under people's houses, which is kind of fun. You can see this gentleman in front of me under the pier. He is sifting dirt with a metal detector. Well, he's not sifting the dirt with the metal detector, but he's using the metal detector and looking for, treasure on the beach. You never know what you'll find washed up on the beaches of Provincetown. The tides here are pretty significant. It's daily like an 11-foot tide, so lots of stuff comes and goes. And it wasn't until the 1940s that folks were no longer allowed to throw their garbage and dump their sewage into the harbor. So you can imagine what it stank like out here. Welcome, Joan, from Virginia Beach. So, where's the plumbing? Penny asked. Well, the plumbing, we'll see some of what I won't really call plumbing, but the household plumbing, the town actually had to put in a sewer system along Commercial Street, which is the main drag, kind of where we started. So there is town sewer and town water. Our water comes from Truro, which is the next town over if you were heading, what we would say, up Cape. So the reason these buildings are these little tiny little shacks is because they were essentially on wharves that jutted out into the water. There's a huge hurricane known as the Portland Gale that destroyed most of the wharves in Provincetown, and they were never rebuilt because the cost to rebuild them was just extraordinary. So that was the beginning of the decline of the big fishing industry in Provincetown. But now a lot of these, what used to be really just sheds, shacks for, keeping lobster traps or fishing gear, have been converted and weatherized. This right in front of us, this little white building with the pier that goes out, that is a bar known as the Harbor Lounge. So the uses have definitely changed, but the all of the part of the town that you'll see today is within the town's historic district, and are all heavily regulated in terms of what can and can't be done. And also on the waterfront, the state has really strict regulations about waterfront access. Yes, Andrea, houses are very, very expensive here. And with the COVID surge of people moving to places like Cape Cod, which are much more remote and quiet, the prices have gone through the roof. Median income here for folks who live and work in town is about just under $50,000 a year, because it's a tourist economy, so it's a lot of service workers. The folks who can actually afford to live here don't work here. They work from home for companies outside of here. They're retired here and bought decades ago, or they've lived here for generations, their families. So I was mentioning like waterfront uses that are regulated. This blank building right here, we're looking at the backside of a hardware store that has been there for many years. Hi there. It's always weird to bump into people on the beach. Yes, it could use a mural. I don't know why they've resisted that. I just go down and look at some tidal pools here, and you can visit with some of the wildlife. There are a couple of seagulls over there. They're the early season birds. The pigeons haven't quite taken over yet, but they will eventually. I'm looking to see if there's any crabs or interesting things in the water here. Oh, there is a bit of something. I don't know if I can get it. So this I just picked up out of the pool. It's part of a shell of a horseshoe crab. So they're pretty common out here. I've never seen one alive. The only place I've seen them alive was at the New England Aquarium in Boston. I always just see them dead, or the remnants of them here in town. What else is there out here in the tidal pool? Not much, a lot of seaweed. Let's see. Usually the crabs will start to come up out of the sand. Oh, and I mentioned the trash situation until the 40s, where people just threw stuff away. So there's onto the beaches and let the tide take care of it. There's a huge amount of sea glass that washes up onto the shore because there was so much glass bottles that were just thrown into the harbor. And there's a few secret locations that folks know of where you can get really, really good sea glass. This, sadly, is not one of them. But I did just pick up a nice little shell. Just a cute one. What else is there here? Oh, and I'm disturbing a little barnacle here on its rock. Some folks would eat those. Escargot. Well, there is, I don't eat seafood, which is weird for someone who lives in a fishing village, but there's a huge opportunity to go harvest your own food here in town. There's open clamming. There's some clam flats that we won't see today, but they're just further down the harbor. We can actually just go out with a bucket and a rake and dig up clams in the wintertime. And a lot of folks do that and bring them home and steam them. Hi, Claire. Welcome to Provincetown. I'm just wandering down the beach, seeing what there is to look at. And it's really windy today. Well, not really windy, but windy enough that it's hard to keep a gimbal stable when you're out trying to walk in a straight line at the same time. Looks like a random buoy. We do find lots of this kind of flotsam boat bits. This actually has a mooring permit. The number is missing, but folks have moorings out there for their boats. You can see some other ones actually floating. Try to, yeah, right there. You can see the white mooring buoys. So this whole complex that we're coming up to is MacMillan Pier, the town's pier. And since it's low tide, I can actually go underneath it. Fuzzy. We should be coming up on a better signal, Penny. I'm getting 5 bars here on my phone. I know where all the cell towers are, having done these kinds of tours now. And the pier has fantastic cell service. There are other places that I would like to take folks, but there's just no cell service. So those remain secrets for when you actually come here to visit. Good to hear other folks. Ooh, okay, I just stepped underneath the pier and got blasted with the smell of the sea. This is underwater most of the time, right? So you can see the creatures. I'm not sure what they are, but the creatures on these piers, on these pilings, which are plastic, so you wouldn't think stuff would grow on them. Apologize for that strange camera movement. So here you can see a houseboat, and houseboats are funny in Provincetown. There aren't many of them because it's so seasonal here, right? You can't keep a house on a barge in the harbor in the winter because the storms are just horrible. So it would get destroyed. So you need to have a place to winter it, which kind of makes living in a houseboat not very useful in this climate. But some folks still do have them. Either they built them new like this, and they're literally a house on a barge. They're not live-aboard boats, so I think there probably are some of those. But yeah, this is one of, I think, 5 houseboats that will be out in the harbor. A couple of them are, of course, Airbnbs. Others are, just people's houseboats that they use for recreation. Now, I realize I just trapped myself down here. This bulkhead in front of me is the end of the parking lot. We have a town parking lot up there that was built in the 60s. It's actually filled tidelands to build a 400 car parking lot between these 2 piers. So yeah, we'll see that in a few minutes, the beautiful central parking in Provincetown. Ooh. I need to go back under the pier, start climbing. I don't think I could quite make it up that. Not as athletic as I once was. I had hoped I would have been able to make it underneath and up the other side, but there's just too much water. I could wade through, but I'm not dressed for it. That's one thing I haven't acquired yet out here is a set of waders. People, wear waders when they go clamming or out and about. Oh, and here's something odd to see. Someone said, I just bring a lawn chair and sit on the beach. Well, here's a couple of chairs hooked on what looks like a sewer pipe or an electrical pipe. All sorts of strange things you find here. We're coming up to ground level up here. Welcome, folks who just joined. Great to have you here on my wander around the beach in Provincetown. I'm walking up to MacMillan Pier. I just saw something that made me go, ooh. It was a part of a dead bird, right? With nature, you get dead things occasionally. I don't even think you can, it's in the shade there. Just a big chunk of wing, probably of a seagull. I had the strange, but let me adjust the camera. There we go. I had the strange but great fun opportunity last year to shoot some exterior footage for an American television show, and it was going to be set in Provincetown. They wouldn't tell me what it was, but they wanted lots of shots of dead animals on the beach. And I figured out it was American Horror Story, who had been planning to come here to shoot season 10 of American Horror Story here. And a bunch of my footage made it into the title sequence. I was quite chuffed. So it was a nice treat. So if you watch the opening of the season 10, it's called Red Tide. It's the American Horror Story double feature. The first 6 episodes all take place here in Provincetown. So this is the giant parking lot I mentioned earlier, which isn't giant by American standards, but for a tiny town on Cape Cod, it's quite large. Some folks to my right that I'm laughing at. This is a bench that was done by a local artist, made out of, found objects. It's a great little tourist spot, a nice place to sit and just kind of relax. Now, these sheds that I'm walking past here are known as trap sheds, which I mentioned that earlier, right? There actually were sheds for storing traps, like lobster traps. Today, they're artist studios in the summertime, where folks can actually work painting, or there's a gentleman who carves wood animals. So you see lots of folks out here in the summertime.
We'll take some candid snaps of that.
So now we are at just above that bulkhead that I wasn't willing to climb for you. There's a little waterfront park here at the edge of the parking lot. Ooh, it's really windy right now. Down below you can see that houseboat. Ooh, that houseboat on the left, and another pier to the right. Pier names are funny here. They change over time. The town pier, MacMillan Pier, was named for Rear Admiral Donald McMillan, who was an Arctic explorer. The pier that we're looking at right now was originally known as Cabral Pier, a Portuguese family that owned it, the Cabrals. And then it became Fisherman's Wharf. And now I think it's just called Provincetown Marina. At one point, when it was originally built, it was called Monument Pier because it lines up with the Pilgrim Monument in the center of town. I'm wondering if my comments have stalled out. If you folks are really quiet or I'm having technical issues. I'm going to hope the folks are just quiet. Oh, hi there, Judith. Thank you for the howdy. I wasn't sure if uh, I'd lost my connection, although all looks good from the tech standpoint. It's funny here. The folks come and because this parking lot is right here. They come and they park right on this edge and sit and eat lunch or whatever and look out over the harbor. Honestly, I do that sometimes too on the benches, just not in a car. So I'm continuing along here. Ooh, the wind. We go past this little restaurant here on the left. This is Nine Rider. It's a seasonal seafood restaurant. And as soon as I'm able, I'm going to jump over this wall and get down to the beach again. That steeple up ahead is the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House. Wow, it's really windy. I'm going to keep saying that. Okay. I just scared some pigeons. Oh. So we are walking directly into the wind. Jumping over the wall so we can go out to the beach again. All right, here we go. So I was talking a little bit about sea level rise and raising buildings, and the town does have a major flooding problem sometimes because storms happen, and this town is essentially at or below sea level. I'm getting pretty good at walking in the sand. Thanks, Judith. And because there's so much storm damage that happens, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's been happening with more frequency like everywhere else around the world. The town is creating some new dunes along the beach to keep the tide out, and that's what we're looking at right in front of us. That pile of sand is a temporary measure until they build the permanent dune, because it will help to keep tidal surge during storms from inundating the town. So this all just used to be flat. You can see this bike. There's a bike rack, the church steeple, and a little tiny building behind these shrubberies. I would call actually invasive weeds. It's kind of funny, right? There's this gorgeous waterfront property that is essentially a parking lot and some sheds. Whew. So we were walking under a modern pier at McMillan, and the modern pilings at that hammock shop that's being lifted up. Here we're going to head over to some old pilings for an old pier that will be going away soon. If you feel like I'm not moving very fast, it is the sand. And my shoes are full of it. But that's okay. That's part of life at the beach. Oh, look, more dead things. That's always disturbing. Folks often ask if they can have their dogs on the beach, and yes, they can here in town. The Cape Cod National Seashore on the other side of Route 6 has much more strict rules about dogs. So this building here used to be a restaurant known as the Old Reliable Fish House. It had a fire. It was condemned. Many attempts were made to try to redevelop it. None of them went anywhere. It was recently purchased by a woman who is proposing to rebuild it as a hotel, be a different form, a different shape, but it would kind of bring this abandoned spot back to life. You can see, so this was the pier, which was once known as Lancey's Pier. It was one of those fishing piers in town. I was looking for something very specific, and I'm sad that it's not there anymore. This piece of rope used to have a swing on it, so you could come out here and you could swing under this old pier. So sad that it's gone. Judith asks if they still have tea dances. Yes, they have tea dance. Tea dance is actually, it takes place at the boat slip, which is, try to pan towards it. It is over there in the distance. Tea dance happens every day during the summer from 4 to 7. It's a dance and drinking party. And it is quite, the boat slip is still there, and it is quite the draw for folks to kind of kick off their afternoon before they go to dinner. There's a whole calendar of events for folks who are vacationing here, kind of the schedule that they go through to get the most out of their time in Provincetown. Because not only is it a fun place to be, there's lots of clubs and theater and performance stuff and the gorgeous beaches and all sorts of outdoor activities. But there's it's gotten incredibly expensive to visit here with the Airbnb takeover of tourism. So it is what it is. Oh, thank you, Pauline, for that tip. That's very generous of you. I love this. I love looking at these pilings, which is why a lot of people do. A lot of people have a lot of passion over these kind of abandoned things. These old things that used to be something important and have changed over time. But I've learned to let some things go. Open one door and close one door, and another one opens. All those kinds of sayings that are kind of trite, but based in some kind of meaning. Coming up on some more birds. Looks like some ducks. Although at this distance, I am not very good. Wow, I'm seeing lots of dead things too. At least they're just seagulls. At this distance, it's hard for me to tell the difference between ducks and seagulls because they just are heads above the water. Those do look like ducks. Try to zoom in and see if we can tell if those are ducks or seagulls. I don't even know if you can see them. It is so bright out here today. I think I'm showing you a seagull. I apologize. Oh, Judith, thank you so much for that tip. For those of you who are new to Hago, tips are what keep guides offering these tours. If you can, it's great to leave a tip. I enjoy doing these just to be able to chat with people. Oh, we talked about trash and sewer and stuff. See, this strange thing here is is an outfall pipe. So a lot of places, used to have sewers and street drains and things that just went out into the harbor. Today it's separated, so the sewer goes to the sewer treatment plant. Oops, gimbal fail. Coming back. Whew. Oh goodness, sorry about that. So there's still quite a few of these, which they're called outfall pipes, which are for storm drains. So if you can imagine during a storm, the water drains off the street, comes out into the harbor. If the tide is high during that storm, the water that's coming off the street can't go anywhere because the harbor is full, and it creates this horrible cycle of flooding. The town is working on ways to store some of that storm water underneath the streets so that it doesn't have to go out into the harbor during a high tide situation. Those kinds of projects are incredibly expensive, though, and require a lot more engineering than a tiny town like Provincetown can do on its own. Oh, Kate, thank you for joining. I'm meandering at this point kind of aimlessly down the beach. We might end up at the boat slip. I'm looking for another access point back up into town. They're supposed to be labeled. At the very beginning of the tour, I showed you folks a sign that said, public beach access. There aren't enough of those, I don't think, anymore. If you're not paying attention, it's really easy to not find one. I have to adjust this. We're starting to only see the sky. Hang on a sec. Well, lovely blue skies in Provincetown today. All right, here we'll look at some ducks. There we go. So I'm looking for not back, but I just saw something shiny. Caught my eye. It's just a mussel. This mussel shell was a particular interest. Caught my eye because it was reflecting lots of blue in the sunlight. Here we go. Here's a beach access point. So this music that we're hearing, I think this is the Club, which is a lesbian comedian and actress, Leah Delaria, owns a jazz club here called the Club. I'm pretty sure that's it. Things look very different from the beach than they do from Commercial Street in town. So sometimes it can be deceptive. But yeah, the purple kind of gives it away. So you see this man with his dog. That is another public access. So here you can see another one of those kayak racks. Some large piles of sand just to try to keep the tide in the harbor. Another one of these beach access signs, which I've never actually looked at one up close. I just kind of glance at it. There's a bunch of rules on it, I assume. So we have 24-hour access. There's no lifeguard. It's a beach walk. Beached boats, or upside down boats on the, apparently on the beach require a permit. Keep off the beach grass because beach grass is important to maintaining the dunes. Be respectful of the birds. Watch your dog and scoop the poop. Carry in and carry out. No cigarette butts, and a QR code, which I don't know where that goes. Someday I'll have to scan those and see what excitement lurks behind that QR code on the internet. So this is Gosnold Street Landing. At least that's what I call it. I think that's what I named it on Google Maps. Most of these little driveway-like roads, alleys, landings in local parlance don't have names. The town numbered them years and years ago, but since the street ahead side of Gosnold Street, we're numbers right here. This name, I decided to Gosnold Street and nothing was stuck. So where we started was essentially Pearl Street Landing, which is behind the Wired Puppy coffee shop. So here we are back out on Commercial Street. If I were to continue down this way, we would end up at the boat slip. It's about 5 blocks that way. If we were to head back this way, it'll bring us into the center of town, to Town Hall, and all that great fun, and to where MacMillan Pier is. So, done a pretty good circuit. Thank you so much for joining me, folks. I've really enjoyed chattering along for these 45 minutes. Hope you've enjoyed it too.